Imagine an old house, its wooden structure groaning under the weight of time and neglect. A house that has seen better days, now standing alone, an eerie testament to the relentless passage of time. This is where our story begins. In this house lived a woman named Sarah. She was a brave soul, unbothered by the creaks and groans of the ancient dwelling she called home. But then she began hearing something else, a faint noise that echoed in the silence of the night. It was like the scurrying of tiny feet, a constant scratch, 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 seemingly coming from within the very walls of the house itself. At first, Sarah dismissed these sounds as nothing more than the house settling, or perhaps a squirrel had made its way into the attic. But as the nights wore on, the sounds became louder, more frequent, impossible to ignore. The scratching seemed to have a rhythm, a pattern that was almost intentional. Each night, as Sarah laid down to sleep, the noises would start, a chilling symphony of scratches that echoed in the stillness. It was as if the house itself was alive, its pulse beating in time with the scratching that now dominated Sarah's nights. Her once comforting home had turned into a place of fear and uncertainty. The scratching became her constant companion, invading her dreams, disrupting her sleep. She would lie awake, eyes wide open, listening to that relentless scratching, feeling the goosebumps rise on her skin, her heart pounding in her chest as the scratching grew louder. Sarah's sleep grew less, and paranoia began to bloom. Her mind began to race with terrifying possibilities. What could be causing the noise? Was it merely an animal, or was it something far more sinister? Sarah tried to shake off these thoughts, to convince herself that it was all in her head. But the scratching, that incessant, terrifying scratching, wouldn't let her. The old house, once a place of comfort, was now a source of her deepest fears. One night the silence fell. It was not a relief, but a shift in terror. The house, which once echoed with the scurrying of unseen creatures, now stood eerily still. Sarah, usually a beacon of courage, felt a chill creep down her spine, her heart pounding like a drum against her ribcage. She lay there wide-eyed in the dark, straining to hear the familiar scratching that had become her nightly lullaby. But there was nothing, no clawing, no scratching, no rustling, only the deafening silence that hung heavy in the air, amplifying the pounding in her chest and the ragged rhythm of her breath. The absence of the familiar sounds was unsettling. It was like the calm before the storm, the silence that precedes an earthquake, the quiet that hushes over the forest before a predator strikes. Sarah could feel it in her bones. Something was not right. The silence wasn't just the absence of noise, it was the presence of something far more sinister. She could almost feel the walls closing in on her, as if the house itself was drawing breath. The quiet was so thick, it felt like a living thing, like a creature lurking in the shadows, watching her, waiting. And then she heard it, a low, guttural breathing that seemed to come from deep within the walls. It was a sound no creature she had ever known could make. Her heart clenched in terror. The realization hit her like a bolt of lightning. The noises, the scratching, the scurrying, none of it was from an animal. She was not sharing her home with some benign creature of the wild. No, she was living with something far more terrifying. The breathing continued, a low, rhythmic growl that seemed to echo from a place of darkness and decay. It was a sound that would forever be etched in her memory, a sound that would haunt her dreams. The terror of the unknown had taken root in her heart, growing with each passing moment. In the choking quiet, Sarah heard the unthinkable, a low, guttural breathing coming from inside the walls. With a hammer in her trembling hands, Sarah decided to face her fear. It was a grim and daunting task, the thought of what might be lurking behind the drywall enough to make her heart pound in her chest like a drum. But she couldn't live in fear any longer. Sarah took a deep breath, her fingers tightening around the cold metal of the hammer. She raised it high above her head, steeling herself for what was to come, and then with all the strength she could muster, she swung. The hammer struck the wall with a resounding thud, sending a shower of dust and plaster into the air. The hole was small at first, just a dent in the drywall. But Sarah didn't stop. She swung again and again, each strike widening the hole, revealing the unknown lurking behind the wall. As the hole grew larger, a cold draft began to seep into the room. It was a chill that sent shivers down Sarah's spine, a chill that smelled of damp earth and something unnatural. It was a smell that spoke of things hidden and forgotten, things that should have remained buried. And then from the depths of the hole, something emerged. It was dark and sinewy, like a vine made of shadow. It slithered out, reaching for Sarah, its touch cold and clammy against her skin. Another followed, then another, each one attaching itself to her, pulling her towards the opening in the wall. Fear gripped Sarah, a fear like she had never known. The tendrils wrapped around her, their grip growing tighter and tighter. She tried to scream, to pull away, but the vines were relentless. They dragged her towards the hole, towards the unthinkable darkness that lay beyond. Her screams echoed through the night as she was consumed by the darkness. The last thing she saw was the hole in the wall, the tendrils retreating back into their hiding place, sealing the opening behind them. The room was silent once more, the only sound the faint scratching of the vines against the drywall. The old house had claimed another victim, its secrets buried deep within its walls. The old house was silent once more, save for the faint scratching sound. The room, once filled with fear and apprehension, was now empty, devoid of any presence. The hole in the wall, a gateway to an unknown terror, was sealed shut, as if the house itself was trying to forget the horror it had witnessed, to erase the evidence of the night's dreadful events. The wallpaper hung loose, a reminder of the struggle that had taken place. The tendrils, those vine-like appendages that had emerged from within, had retreated back to the shadows, their purpose served. Yet the faint scratching sound persisted, a chilling echo of the night's terror. It was a haunting lullaby, a reminder that the horror was not gone, merely dormant. What became of Sarah, no one knows. She vanished into the shadows, her screams echoing in the silent night. All that remained was the faint scratching sound as the vine-like appendages retreated, sealing the hole behind them. And so the old house was silent once more, but for how long?